Um, we are going to give folks just a couple of seconds to get in here, and then we're going to get started. But welcome and thank you all for being here. Can I get confirmation from a friend that you see you see our slides on here? I
Yes.
got thumbs up. Sweet. Thank you. And then Christine, are you actually going to start us off?
Yes, I will, and then I'll pass
Oh,
the.
cool. Let's get going then.
Yeah, sounds good. So welcome everyone to the workshop From Surviving to Thriving, the Power of Personal Storytelling. First order of business, if you haven't done so already, I'd like to ask all of you to please toggle over to the polls section of Whova and take a moment to answer those questions for this session. Throughout this conference, we've explored policies, programs, and partnerships that create more inclusive systems for people and their animals. But behind every policy shift and systems change is a powerful story, one that captures lived experience, resilience, and the urgent need for action. This session focuses on harnessing the power of personal narratives to drive change and inspire advocacy. You'll learn practical public speaking skills and storytelling techniques from experienced advocates with lived experience. Through interactive discussions and workshops, we'll explore strategies for authentic engagement, crafting impactful speeches, and using personal stories as a tool for meaningful change in homeless services and advocacy. We're honored to have two incredible facilitators leading this session. First, we have Rhie Azzam-Morris, a national leader in homeless response systems change. Rhie is an educator, an organizer, and a thought leader in racial equity work with a personal journey from experiencing homelessness as a youth to shaping national policies and initiatives. Rhie has played a critical role in major HUD initiatives, served on the board of the Other Ones Foundation, and collaborated with the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness in shaping All In, the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. Joining Rhie is Jillian McMillian, a passionate advocate for the intersection of animal welfare and human services. Jillian's lived experience navigating homelessness with her family, including the painful loss of her pets due to lack of shelter resources, fuels her mission to ensure no one has to choose between a roof over their head and the animals they love. Now a board member of My Dog is My Home, Jillian channels her experience into advocacy, public speaking, and direct action to keep families together. Before I turn it over to Rhie and Jillian, just a quick note, there will be a brief Q&A at the end of the session, so feel free to jot down any questions in the Whova QA box as we go along. And with that, I'm excited to hand it over to our incredible facilitators. Rhie and Jillian, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. That
Wow.
was I'm like, yeah. Can I just say to everybody in the room, I know Jill is like a whole human, and she's one of my favorite beings in the world. And I have gotten to be very privileged to walk alongside her evolution over the last few years and her involvement in work, both with My Dog is My Home and just like as a whole person. And it's been awesome. I love you. That's all. So as you can tell, you see in our cover slide here, the power of authentic storytelling. I have some issues with the word authentic from time to time because it's a bit of a buzzword these days, but the truth is that we are here to talk about what it means to be whole people and how we show up, and those of us with lived experience can show up and really use our stories to shape change and to advocate and to create a new and better world. I think most of us with lived experience, at least in my experience, are folks who know what we've been through and we don't ever want anybody else to go through it again. And we know that that's possible. And so, we are here today to talk with y'all just kind of about really Christine covered it. I'm like super like appreciative of that because there's not much more to add. The only thing we do want to say is that Jill and I, we are good friends and we're a little chatty. I'm definitely more, it's me, I'm chatty. So if the Q&A if we get to a point where we find that there's not time, she and I are both going to be getting into the Whova app throughout the day. So if you do put a question in the Q&A that we don't answer in session, please check your Whova app because we will reply directly to any questions over the next, like the rest of the day to make sure that you do get your questions answered. So with that said, welcome to our conversation on what it looks like to move from surviving into thriving and how we can use our stories to really shape and affect change in our country and in our work. I'm gonna, oh, right, this is the one here. I'm running slides today, so please bear with me. So we are gonna do a tiny little bit of introduction of ourselves. Um, I don't need to add more than what Christine said. It was, for me, we're like, wow, held my whole heart. But I do want to point out that that is Boscolito, and he is my senior baby. And I've had him, as of the 22nd was his 15-year found day. So we have had him for 15 years, and he's my whole heart. And he let me put a tie on him. That is Edgar. He is not happy to be wearing the elf ears, but that was our Christmas card one year. That's Vinny, and that is Tink. So I am a mom of these amazing little beings, as well as all the things that Christine said that I am. So Jill, do you wanna tell folks who you are?
Sure. I mean, Christine definitely did nail it. Thank you so much. I'm kind of speechless after that, and this is like the worst time to be speechless because I'm supposed to be speaking. But these are my babies. This is Bebop. She's a shy little, I'm afraid of everything. Somebody dropped a tissue, will let me go run to the next room. She's a good girl, but she's a scaredy cat. And here, on the bottom, we have Cowboy. So yes, my cats are named after an anime. Cowboy and Bebop are their names. Cowboy he runs the house. He makes sure that everybody's fed, including like the humans. He makes sure that I know what time to get up in the morning, or, you know, he's the boss. So these are my babies, my new babies.
Dive in, because like I said, there's some content here. These slides will be made available if you want to go back, if you want to. I noticed, so one of the reasons I want to name that we have the poll asking about lived experience is because we really want to shape this for our audience, right? And so if we do seem to have a higher percentage of folks in the space today who don't necessarily have lived experience of homelessness. I do want to name, though, that everybody has lived experience of something, and I think that that's something we should uplift and honor in our work. But in this instance and today, we really are talking about what it is to have moved through these systems and what it's been like for those of us who've moved through these systems with our pets and the impacts that that's had. So we're going to dive in and really just talk about telling our stories and what that looks like. I guess I'm actually getting us kicked off when we're talking about authentic storytelling and what does that mean, right? So this concept we're talking about is that we're really sharing our personal and real and honest experiences with a focus on vulnerability, and allowing us to kind of tell our own truth without, sometimes it's about pulling those heartstrings, right? Especially for donors, especially if we're trying to raise funding, if we're trying to do, even speaking before Congress. But we want our stories are enough, right? We don't need to add to them. We can just tell our true story. We're trying to connect emotionally with an audience. That is so important. Yesterday, I was lucky to be allowed to moderate a session that was talking about work with youth in Denver area. And as a part of that, I told the story of my own experience with my dog when I was a hitchhiking young person. And I talked about, like, yesterday I talked about Danny and how, I got him while I was hitchhiking. He trained up as a road dog. He came with me. He traveled with me for a couple of years, and then and he saved my life a couple of times. There were instances where I got into cars that were not safe cars. I was a young kid. I was like, I look back now and go, I cannot believe that I got into chicks. I did routinely. And I learned to watch his responses, because after the first time someone tried to attack me, and I'm not gonna get into it, but like that is what happened. And he came and like went for the guy, and we got kicked out of the guy's car, which was great. That first time I had noticed that he had like not wanted to get in the car, and he's not usually like that. The second time he didn't want to get in a car, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, buddy, we're going. We have to, right? We get in the car, and then same kind of thing happens where the person had nefarious intent, and Danny came from the back seat and saved my life. That night, he saved my life. But the thing is that when we are talking about the importance of that bond, right, between people and their animals, and especially when we're talking, my experiences from being a young person, where there's that unconditional love, right? When I'm here to talk to y'all, part of how we can, that conversation yesterday as an example was them talking about a study that they've been doing, right? And all the data. And that's important. Those pieces are important. But we are learning more and more in our field that qualitative data holds just as much importance. And the way that we collect that data, the way that we disseminate that data, all of those things have to hold dignity of the human beings that are providing that qualitative data, and being able to give that unique insight from a lived experience in my case, right? Adds to the richness of, for example, a session like yesterday, which was phenomenal without my story, right? Because they had their own stories, but my story added to it and really drew people in. So when we're talking about authentic storytelling, we're really talking about the opportunity to share and own and have autonomy over our own stories.
Well, after, wow, that was really good. The benefits of sharing. Well, one of the benefits for me anyway, from telling my story actually got me involved with My Dog Is My Home. So I'm just gonna put it out there that sometimes the benefits don't come until, you know, they just come out of nowhere. All I did was tell my story to one person, and I just happened to have a conversation with one person, and they were like, "Go ahead and talk to Christine Kim." Oh, okay, let's go talk to Christine Kim. And I found myself now here I am a board member, you know, sharing my experience with you guys. Now, not only are those kind of benefits that come through, but there's also the fact that you get to own your story wholly and completely. Like your past, your story, your everything is able, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up, is able to be leaked out the way you want it to be. And through that, that's a form of therapy. I've found that I have literally gone from surviving to thriving by way of telling my story. And that was with, of course, telling My Dog Is My Home, giving me the platform to be able to go out and tell my story and share with all these wonderful people. And through telling that story and meeting people and hearing what they thought, and hearing how much commonality we actually had, it got me to think a little bit more about what I went through, and the fact that it's something that I went through, not something that I'm still going through. So here I am now today. I'm no longer just surviving. I'm trying to live, man. I'm thriving. I'm doing the things.
I love that. And it's true, right? Like I slept on, like I routinely think about how like 15 years ago I ate out of dumpsters. Like I ate out of trash cans when I was hungry. I slept under bridges. Like that's a real part of my life. And for whatever reason, because of that, today, I am allowed. I like the idea that I was invited to be a part of shaping All In, the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. I don't have a degree. I've written federal policy with no degree. I mean, that might not make people feel great, but the thing is that the other value here, right, is that our stories are our expertise. That is what it is. There is a reality that we do this work every day. We are advocating, we are fighting for, we're trying to create procedures and policies that like protect people's ability to keep their animals, their family with them, right? All of these things. It is a phenomenal opportunity to give someone the ability to see their own value, and I think that that's a thing that we overlook. When I think also talking about benefits of sharing, it is about building empathy, right? It is about creating a connection and really and truly inspiring action and change, right? That's the goal here. And we have the opportunity when we own our own stories to really be able to challenge stereotypes. That's a huge thing. Like the number of times I have gotten up in front of an audience in a room full of people, like I was the keynote speaker for the Texas statewide conference on ending homelessness a couple of years ago. And I walked up after they read, kind of like Christine did, read that bio, but it was September. It was hot. I was in like literally a cute little jumpsuit. I was cute, but like I had shown up all ready to go and professional and wound up getting on that stage with my hair in a top knot, holding a fan that I put on the like podium and saying to them, first words out of my mouth, I bet that the person that you just heard about, I bet you didn't think that person was going to be this person, right? And that's the thing. We have to remember that when we're inviting folks to share their stories and we're utilizing that as a tool when folks want to do that. And for those of us with lived experience, this is your decision to make and you own it. For those that don't have lived experience and are interested in how do we engage folks with lived experience, that is one of the most important things that you must remember. When you are engaging that expertise, right? Expertise of a system, that person has the right to say whatever or as much or as little as they want to. And I think, we have a slide on our slide. We talk about self-care strategies around for those of us who lived experience and those of us who are just having to do this work of engagement, right? What does it mean to foster connection? It's so important, right? And Jill, if you want to take us through the first couple of those, I think I just got ahead of us a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. You're actually making me kind of want to laugh inside. You're entertaining me.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, so yeah, so like some of these steps are practicing grounding techniques before and after sharing, which is great to get a sense of reality of where you are. You don't have you might be nervous, but that could be that little depression monster that's telling you all these little stories in your ear. You're not good enough. And that little thing is lying. So practicing the grounding techniques will bring you back to a place of reality. Listen, this is my story. What I'm doing is great. I'm here. I am safe. Let's move on. Okay. Setting clear boundaries, letting people know what you will and will not do. Letting yourself know what you will and will not tolerate.
Absolutely.
Tell that little depression monster, tell that little anxiety monster to go away. Listen to what it's got to say, and then just flick them off.
Can I interrupt you with one thing about that too, though? Is that okay, friend?
Go for it.
For providers in the room around that idea of setting clear boundaries on what and when to share, the other thing to remember is that if you are a person with lived experience in this room right now or watching this video at some point, I want you to hear me when I say these systems will have us co-signing things that we don't buy and we don't believe in, because when you are given an opportunity to be heard for the first time, there's something about being seen when you've spent the experiencing homelessness is dehumanizing on a level that we don't talk about enough, frankly, and we don't investigate deeply the impacts that has on people. So when we get that opportunity to come to a thing like this or go to a room and do a policy change or whatever, sometimes it can feel like, oh, that doesn't feel good to me, but they're giving me this platform and I've never had that before. And I don't want to make them upset or I don't want to make them angry. So if you are a person with lived experience in this room, please hear me when I tell you, always push back. You're allowed to push back. This is your story, your narrative. And if you are a person who is a provider in this room, honor and respect the full dignity of somebody telling you this is my line. That's so important. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but
Well, even just to add to that, I mean, make sure that line is nice and bold printed. Make sure that
transparency.
And it takes a lot to get to a point where you're able to do that. But when you do, you make sure that line is nice and bold printed, underline the underline, do what you got to do, but make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Which actually kind of makes me think about, there's a bullet a little further down, but your story is yours, protect it.
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes organizations out there, they may be well-meaning, but they may take your story and use it for something that isn't something that aligns with your values or what you intended them to use your story for. Like those the ASPCA commercials. You don't want to end up on one of those. You know, you told them a story about how you had to leave your dog out in a cage for an hour because you went into the supermarket to beg for, I don't know, cheese. So um they take that story and turn it into, this dog sat outside for hours in the hot boiling
Mhm.
sun while this person who was inside trying to get some cheese for herself. You know, it just
Mhm. So you
take
were trying to get
control of
dog
your,
food. Yeah.
yeah. So take care of your story as well. And make sure that you're able to withdraw consent.
Yes.
If there is an org that you're going to work with or something like that, and they say that you cannot withdraw consent, that's a red flag. That is a red flag.
A red flag and an opportunity for negotiation, right? Understand that if you are a person with lived experience that's engaging in this, you are the expert. It's not just experience, it's expertise. And there's other things, right? Like, so clearly, if you've never done this before versus somebody who's been like up in front of people 100 times, it's going to be different, right? There's different levels of that. But at the end of the day, you are the expert. They are coming to you for your expertise, and you have a right to say, hold on, this doesn't give me permission to withdraw consent. I'm not willing to sign that until we address that. If you change that and say, I can withdraw consent, or you can use my image or story until this date, right? Like, you have a right to those things, and to being to saying that. And for those of you who are providers, you need to ensure that when you are signing a contract with somebody, you're providing an opportunity for them to direct how long you're allowed to use that information and what their compensation for that is going to be. All of these pieces, right? Because that's what collaboration and integration is. We talk a lot about meaningful engagement with people with lived experience. I say that like that because it makes me sick. Because at the end of the day, meaningful engagement and authentic engagement, they are buzzwords. True integration of folks with lived experience into making changes and decisions and sharing our stories means that we have the same autonomy walking in the space that you do. And the onus is on you as a provider to ensure that is made available to them from day one, right? In transparency, in the ability to withdraw consent, etc. We need to move to the next slide, my friend, because we're like already, I know 45 minutes is not enough time for me and Jill to talk, y'all. Y'all don't even know. You should see our coffee dates. So, storytelling and strategy.
All
I'm gonna
right.
let you kick us off.
Easy peasy. Structure your story with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Focus on key moments and emotions that convey your message. Lean into it. Is what my advice is. Lean into those emotions that you're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And as you're crafting your narrative, you are also being given an opportunity to reclaim your narrative, right? We get to take control of how our story is told and I want to, this slide, I love it. It's cute. I made it. It's my fault. But like, we do not actually get to have control over how our story is interpreted because we do not own that, right? We can't own other people's interpretations. What we do have, though, is the right to have control of how our story is told, which takes us back to the previous slide where we're talking about ensuring that the ability, for example, to withdraw consent or to determine the length of time you can use my story. And also, we get to challenge stereotypes, right? You can't see that I'm covered in tattoos because I'm in my house and it's cold where I live. But when I get up in front of people, I'm overweight. I'm, I don't want to tell you how old I am. I'm older than I would like to be. And I am covered in tattoos and I don't have a degree. And so, a lot of times, before my mouth is even open, people have already decided who I am, right? And I use storytelling all the time to challenge that. That's one of my biggest things is like, hey, you don't know who's sitting across the table from you. You have to let people be whole people before you make a decision about who they are. And that means those biases you might hold that you might even not know that you hold, you gotta check them, right? You have to go, hold on, wait a minute, what decision am I making based on what I'm seeing rather than on what I'm allowing and giving space for a whole person to be.
Oh. And reclaiming your narrative. You want to
That's right.
jump on that one?
I just did that one.
Oh, you just did. You went from crafting to reclaiming, and I was like, how are you going to do that again? Wow. yeah, choosing what to share. Select experiences that are meaningful and relevant to your audience. Consider the impact and the purpose of your story. Now, when I tell my story, actually, my story with that I've been doing for a while with My Dog Is My Home actually ended up becoming a love letter to my kitties, the ones that I lost. And um, through that, being able to write them a letter got me to see different things in from different angles to be able to portray what I was trying to portray. I was able to tell them, thank you for keeping me alive all these years. Thank you for giving me a purpose. I was able to say goodbye. I was, you know, or see you later, or I'm still looking for you. Um, so with writing that letter in that way, I was really able to pour out so much more than I thought by writing just a standard, your standard story. So you can get crafty and creative with it, whatever way, rubs your soul is the way to do it. I'm sorry.
It's wonderful. Actually, I'm gonna flip what I'm doing next, before you do setting boundaries, and I'm gonna talk about fostering empathy and understanding because that's what just happened for me, right? I've known Jill for 3 years. I adore Jill. I hearing her talk about a love letter to her pets, her family, right? That story just in this moment illustrates how we can connect these stories to universal human emotion. We know what it feels like to be we know loss. We understand that, right? As people. I'm sorry, it really got me. I have a senior kitty and I sometimes sit with him and think, oh my gosh, my baby. It also lets us invite listeners to imagine themselves in our situations, which is how we're trying to build empathy. I wish people didn't need to experience it to care about it, but sometimes that's where we're at in this world. So we can use our stories to foster empathy and understanding. I'm trying to be mindful of time, Jill. So do you want to hit us through setting boundaries and then
Well, we kind of did discuss the setting boundaries, but I'll just say the bullets and then we'll run along. Decide in advance what details you're comfortable sharing. Practice ways to redirect if questions become too personal.
that's a big key one. Practice how to redirect and work with trusted colleagues on that. And also remember that we can use our stories to illustrate systemic issues and offer insights on how we can change policy, right? So as we're crafting our narrative and crafting that story, these are points that we can keep in mind. Let me go. Oh, no, wrong slide. There we go. Okay. Do you want to?
Sure. So again, talking about which way you want to portray your story or how you want to portray your story. What is your medium? Rhie is an incredible poet, an incredible writer. Sometimes like she says things and I get like I just cripple, I go down because she just like has this way with words and making an impact. She's an incredible she's just incredible, as you can see. There's visual art. My daughter actually does some visual art. She actually helped craft some stuff for the My Dog Is My Home folks who lost pets over the years. Each year she does like a set of greeting cards of drawings of the pets that have been lost during that year. And she also draws and paints and just in her free time just to be therapeutic about it. Performance art, Rhie, if you want to talk about that.
So I mean, performance art can be like theater. It can be, it can be a number of things. I mean, so I do slam poetry. Like Jill was saying, I don't think I'm that great, but like I'm all right. I did it as a street kid to stay alive. It worked. Music is another way that we can do that. And I think we want to think about when we're telling our story. There was a question in the Q&A earlier about what's the best way to share success stories. And I want to just touch on, and I answered that in the Q&A, and I really recommend everybody going to check that out, is just thinking through when we're talking about how we tell success stories, that we are including things like compensation and people's right to set their parameters and their boundaries. That all said, we're at 12:15. We have a thing we want to practice. We want to give you guys a chance to practice telling your own story, which is super exciting and fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this thing that's called a 6-word story starter. And I'm going to play one of my favorite songs, which is about 3.5 minutes long. And while it's playing, if you've got your phone open, your computer, a notebook, what we want to do is have you write a 6-word story about your experience that is focused on a pivotal moment or feeling. And we really want you to aim for authenticity and impact. So there are some examples on there, but I'm going to give you one that ties back to what we were talking about earlier, because I had come up with one this morning, which was without my dog, me, dead. That's my 6-word story, right? And we remember that these are just the beginnings of our stories. So this is an opportunity for you to think of a moment and put it into 6 words. It doesn't have to be complete. It doesn't have to be the end. It's the beginning, right? From that 6 words, without my dog, me, dead. Oh, that's only 5 words because without is 1 word. My bad, but whatever. That story, just that line, then becomes this ability for me to come into this room and talk to you guys about Danny and how he saved my life, right? So we want you guys to try to write a 6-word story. We're going to play a song. We're going to ask when that's over for people who are comfortable to maybe have a couple of folks drop their story in the chat, or Christine, if you can help us with if anybody wants to come off mute and share, we'll have a couple of minutes to do that. So is everybody like following? Oh man, I can't see anybody in this setup. I'm going to just trust that you guys are all following. I'm going to play a song. It's my favorite song right now. And then when that song ends, we're going to ask for folks to share a story. Oh, Jill, did you want to give an example? I'm sorry, I spaced. I'm trying to keep us to time. Babe, I'm sorry.
Well, I actually have a 6-word story that I came up with earlier as well. Lost my pets, misplaced my home. Now, with that, do what you will. I could think of a whole bunch of stuff to write to that. You know, it's a great prompt. So, yeah, all right.
Oh,
let's do this.
I'm gonna play a song. I see Chelsea. I see your hand, friend. If we're gonna, it's a 3.5 minute song. We'll, as soon as it ends. Oh, it went away. Okay. And yeah, if y'all have questions, drop them in the Q&A, and please write a 6-word story about your experience. Try to focus on one moment or feeling, and really try to aim for authenticity and impact. You get about 3 minutes.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Oh no. Shelly, allow me to lay the story. Knees deep and I'm in it for the glory. Just a girl trying to navigate the world. Big dreams in her hands and a complex identity. I hate the boxes, they suffocate me. Big claustrophobia, it's not simple. It's never simple. Late bloomer, took some time to figure out who I was. Felt hollow in my skin, wings clipped early but I did arise. Caterpillar, chrysalis, boss lady, fly eye. Roll up and rest my eyelids. Been around the world enough to say this. Everybody's trying to find where they fit, but it all comes down to this. I got layers, you got layers, we got layers. I got layers, she got layers, many flavors. There's no one right way to be, more than what the eye can see. Baby, all these layers keep me warm and make me me. And when they tell me that I don't look like I'm Haitian, I sin and get my renu. I finally found my peace and I'm done getting sentimental. To this, to that, not enough this, prove that, Lord knows. You get used to switching codes, or tell me where you from. Where you really from? Citoyenne du monde, child of the world, dans ce grand mélange. change. Where do I belong? Got my roots from Haiti to Madagascar. Tissy raised in Africa. French vanille avec la voix de miel. Find me mixing my ugali with poisson gosel. I tell them I got layers, you got layers, we got layers. I got layers, he got layers, many flavors. There's not one right way to be more than what the eye can see. Baby, all these layers keep me warm and make me me.
So thanks for letting me play that song. It's my jam. I hope that was enough time. It's totally okay if it wasn't. I love it if anyone wants to share their 6-word story. I do see Dick McCandless. It looks like your hand is up. I'm not 100% sure how Whova versus Zoom is. So did you have do you want to share your story? Do you have a question?
Christine had just said to have us. Oops. Okay, sorry. We have 2 different attendees in the same room, so it was echoing. Yeah, Christina just said to throw our hands up if we wanted to share our 6-word story.
Awesome. Please share. Sorry.
She breathed new life into me.
I love that. Oh, that's stunning. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. I see Chastity McCourt.
Hi guys. So mine is alone, scared. Maui, I became one.
Y'all are making me want to be like, let's hang out because I want to hear the rest of your story. That was stunning. Thank you for sharing that. My goodness. I hope you both are writers, and if not, start writing because wow.
Oh, Chastity shared some poetry earlier. You two need to connect.
Well, let's connect. Chastity, I would love to. Do we got any other folks want to share? Or I'm trying to see maybe if it's in the chat. I'm working on figuring out the Whova versus Zoom thing, y'all. Thank you for your patience.
I could read a few out from the chat if you'd like.
Yes, please, Christine. Thank you.
Sure. From Karen Vandersall, Scraggles healed my family, saved me. From Chelsea Safe Dogs, tragedy, violence, trauma, dogs, survival, resilience.
My goodness.
And from Shelby Roberts, hitting myself, loving you, loving myself.
This is incredible. I mean, I expected this to be like, wow, but I didn't expect to have like my stomach churning. Like I'm feeling all kinds of feelings right now. These are beautiful. Ooh.
There's a few more coming through. Would you like me to keep reading?
Yes,
Sure.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen though, if that's okay.
Sure. So from Carla Peterson, teenager, car living, depression, rose above. And from Destiny Bottoms, emptiness, still grieving your firstborn. And from Emily Wood, held you at the end. Thank you. From Laura French, Bo, 2 letters for new start. And from Taylor Matlin, until my pet, I was alone. With my pet, I found home. And from Danny Rapp, old soul, trusts none, loves dogs.
This is so profound.
Right, from Kylie Miller, left abuse to bloom and grow. And from Lena Gabriel, my dog saved my life without knowing it.
Oh, I love it. I want to say something in our last 5 minutes, and we do have time in 5 minutes for a question or two if you guys want. But before that, I want to say to everyone on this call or on this session, resilience is a thing, and what a grateful thing that all of us who are here have that. But I want you to hear me when I say that I'm sorry that you had to be resilient. And I'm sorry for the state of things that force us into resiliency. And I'm grateful to the community and the networks and the world and the people, because we all know that we do this together. We all know that this only happens when we work together and we collaborate. That's what Jill and I really want. I mean, Jill, I'm speaking for you. I'm sorry, but I think that's
You're right on.
yeah, like a huge part of the point of this session is for you to take away that when we talk about telling our stories and what that looks like and sharing these success stories, we mean we need community and we need collaboration, and we need to be allowed to show up as whole people in the way that you need to be allowed to show up as whole people. And we need to allow for dignity and honor of our stories, and that there's not one of us who came out of this that really and truly did do it on their own. It required a community, whatever that might have looked like. And we're in a time right now where leaning into that community is so important. And part of our storytelling is an ask of us to be vulnerable. And I think that my challenge to those who are providers, perhaps, that are here saying, like, we're people who hire people to tell our stories. A, compensation always. B, that vulnerability, like, we need you to have that too with us, right? Like, I know there's rules, boundaries, ethics, all of those things. Keep them in place. Boundaries are necessary, especially for folks coming out of trauma, because a lot of times these relationships are often the first modeling what a healthy boundary can look like and a healthy relationship can be. But y'all, please know, in the time we're in right now, we need to lean into one another and lean on each other. And those of you who hold power positions, I challenge you and ask you, and maybe somewhat beg of you, to remember that it's not just my story you're taking from me. It's a part of who I am, and it's a part of my expertise. And that expertise has as much value as the expertise that's sat in a classroom for 20 years or whatever it is, right? My classroom just looked different. That's all. I still have the education. Jill still has the education. That person sitting across the table from you, they have that expertise and that value, and it needs to be compensated. And it's not just about financial compensation, but it's about relationship and vulnerability.
I have nothing to follow up on that. 100% to all of it. Thank you all for sharing with us this powerful 6-word. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. I'm gonna watch this when the recordings come back. I'm gonna watch it over and over again.
And real quick, Christine, for those of you who did write a story, remember it's just the beginning, right? That 6 words, you can turn that into whatever you want it to be. Maybe you want to go write it on paper and burn it and send it off into the world. Or maybe you want to go and write a play or get connected with one of your, provider friends and be like, hey, I want to share this story. It's just the beginning, and you own it, and it's yours, and no one gets to have that.
Well,
Sorry.
no, please don't apologize. I want to express all of our gratitude to you two, our wonderful facilitators, Rhie and Jillian. Thank you for sharing your expertise and inspiring us today. And thank you for being generous with your knowledge and your time and your engagement. So we'll now take a 15-minute break. Our next session starts at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. And you'll have 3 options to choose from. So please click the corresponding agenda item in Whova to select the session you'd like to attend. Enjoy your break, everyone, and we'll see you back shortly.
Thanks all.